Hello, and welcome to this training on the fundamentals of early literacy, brought to you by the Anchorage Public Library. This training consists of 3 short videos to watch, and there will be a quiz at the end. This second video is about the components of early literacy. If you haven't watched part 1, pause here and watch the first video before continuing on. Early literacy is not teaching children to read. It is providing them with the skills they need in order to be ready to read when they enter school. Learning these skills begins at birth as parents and caregivers interact with and teach children. Parents and caregivers can foster early literacy skills by engaging with books and doing other activities, which we'll discuss in more detail in part 3 of our series. There are 6 basic components or skills that a child needs to master before they can read successfully. They are not learned in a sequential order, but each skill is learned at the same time and each supports and feeds the others. Oral language is a foundational skill. It encompasses a child's ability to listen, to speak, and to communicate with others. Vocabulary is understanding the meanings of words. The more words a young child hears, the larger a vocabulary they will acquire. A well-developed vocabulary helps a child when they start to learn to read for a simple reason. If the child is sounding out a word and they've already been exposed to it, they can more easily make the connection between written and spoken language. If they've never heard that word before and are trying to sound it out, they have no way of knowing if they're pronouncing it or figuring it out correctly. Print awareness, also sometimes called print conventions or print concepts, is knowing that print has meaning. The child knows that books are read in a certain order and how to handle a book. Letter knowledge is the 4th skill. Children need to know that letters are different from each other, that the same letter can sometimes look different, and that each letter has a corresponding sound. Phonological awareness is the ability to recognize the smaller sounds that make up words, including phonemes and syllables. Many children who have difficulty in reading are often struggling with phonological awareness and being able to break words up into manageable chunks. The last skill is background knowledge. It's important for children to know a lot about their world, that they can describe what's going on around them and ask questions. The more limited a child's experience is, the more likely he or she will have difficulty comprehending what is read. To see the connection between early literacy and later reading, let's first look at what literacy skills children need to be successful readers when they are formally taught to read in elementary school. We're talking about this today not to have you think that we're teaching preschool-age children to read. It is important to help you see the progression from early literacy to later reading. Formally learning to read involves 3 key skill areas. Children must learn to decode print and to connect letters with their sounds. This also includes sight words. Children need to understand or comprehend what print says, and children need fluency, the ability to read a text accurately, quickly, and with expression. Let's first look at decoding, learning the code. Back before we knew our letters and before we knew they represented sounds, they were just a bunch of squiggles to us, like what you see here. So if I were to ask you what this says, without knowing these letters and their sounds, you don't know. But if I give you the added information of the sounds that correspond to the squiggles, then we know it says k, a, t, cat. Now you've decoded the symbols. You match them to the sounds and read the word. In order to decode words, children need to notice print and understand that printed words stand for spoken words. They need to know how to follow words on a page from left to right. These come from that print awareness component. They need to be able to hear and play with the sounds in words, which is phonological awareness. and they need to know letter names and sounds, letter knowledge. Knowing letter names and sounds and being able to hear and play with the sounds and words are the strongest predictors of early reading success for young children. Comprehension is the second skill for reading. It is at the heart of what it means to be a good reader. What do you think the underlined words in this sentence mean? If you don't know what Hipple and Roths mean, you don't know what this sentence means. But you can make a good guess from the pictures, just as children do. When you see this sentence with the left-hand side picture, you might guess that Hipple means happy and Roths means reads. Isabel is happy when she reads with her dad. Or maybe you look at the right-hand side picture. Maybe Isabel is happy when she hikes or walks with her dad. Unless you actually know the meaning of the words Hipple and Roths, you're not 100% sure what the sentence means. Children can learn to decode words, but not understand what they mean. To become good readers, children must be able to both decode words and interpret their meaning. In order to be able to comprehend what they read, children need to have a good vocabulary. Children need to know the meaning of individual words. They also have to have background knowledge, which is knowledge about the world. In the previous images, you saw smiles and thought it meant that people were happy. You saw a book and you know that you read books. You knew they were hiking together because they're outside and the child is in a hiking backpack. All these observations and interpretations are based on your knowledge about the world. Fluency is the third skill area for reading. It is the ability to read a text accurately, quickly, and with expression. Fluency is a bridge built on word recognition and comprehension. You need both to read fluently. The Alaska Developmental Profile is an assessment of the skills of kindergartners. It is a snapshot that uses teacher observations to identify which school readiness skills and behaviors the children demonstrate when they enter school. The assessment covers 13 goals and indicators in the 5 domains of the Alaska Early Learning Guidelines. These domains are physical well-being, health and motor development, social and emotional development, approaches to learning, cognition and general knowledge, and communication, language, and literacy. While we do not discount the importance of the other domains, the main focus in libraries is on the 5 skills from the communication, language, and literacy domain, which you can see listed here. These are part of the components of early literacy. The percentages you are seeing indicate how many students across the state of Alaska are considered to be consistently demonstrating this skill. For the purposes of the Alaska Developmental Profile, a student is consistently demonstrating this skill if they are demonstrating it at least 80% of the time. The numbers we see are a little disheartening. Because of COVID-19, teachers did not conduct the assessment this past fall, so the numbers we see here are from the most recent assessment during the 2019 to 2020 academic year. Across all districts statewide, we see that nearly 58% of students demonstrated receptive language skills, 54% demonstrated expressive communication skills, 41% showed phonological awareness skills, 47% demonstrated knowledge of print concepts, and 48% demonstrated consistent letter knowledge. As you heard in this video, these skills are crucial for a child to have in order to be able to read and read well. Being a better reader leads to later school success, predicts high school graduation rates, and leads to better and more choices and options in life. So how can we foster these skills? We need to understand our individual communities and determine what the children in our communities need. We can make our youth spaces welcoming and child-friendly. We can model practices and behavior to other parents and caregivers and show them things they can do at home on their own to help their children. We can create safe spaces where children can come to interact with adults, practice movement, sounds and rhythms, and language patterns. They can play imaginatively and read high-quality, age-appropriate material. The Public Library Association and the Association of Library Services to Young Children wanted to promote early literacy in a way that's easy and natural for parents and caregivers to do on a daily basis. Chances are you're already doing these things with your children. The key will be to do them with the intentional mindset to help them master the components of early literacy you learned about earlier in this video. These 5 practices are reading, singing, playing, talking, and writing. We'll discuss each of these practices in more detail in our next video and give you some example activities that you can do with your child and that you can model for other parents and caregivers that you interact with. Thanks for watching Part 2 in our series on the fundamentals of early literacy. See you in Part 3, where we'll talk about the practical strategies for building early literacy skills.